Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the 2D Film Club podcast. I am one of the co-hosts, Nate Stevenson, and my other co-host, Cody Dixon. How are you doing today, Cody?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing great. How's the weather in Florida?
It's pretty hot and humid, but
A little toasty.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a little toasty this past week in Texas. It was like over 110 a couple days, so it's always fun.
Nice. That's fun.
Well, last week we talked about Harakiri, and we talked about Lost in Translation, and we talked about, Palm Springs a little bit, and we had quite a bit of a good showing with some individuals listening to this podcast. We want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to listen to our podcast. This definitely is a new experience for us, and we know there's going to be glitches that happened or anything. So thank you for sticking with us, and we're on to week 2.
Glitches, spread of misinformation, mispronunciation of words and names.
I apologize. I'm learning. Like I said, I'm a film virgin, so shout out to Sky for correcting me on my mispronunciation of the festival. I'm not even gonna try to attempt it again. Probably should have learned it, but it's okay. It's a learning experience, right?
That's right. I don't know if we're gonna learn, but we're gonna keep doing it.
Exactly. That's what matters, right?
Yep.
Once again, we want to shout out to Letterbox and please sponsor us. We love you, Letterbox, and we're grateful for the app that you are and for giving us this opportunity in the beginning to rate movies and be able to have that social network aspect itself. So, shout out to Letterbox.
Shout out, yeah. That came from the bottom of your heart, I can tell.
I know, man.
That's beautiful.
Well, I want them to sponsor us, so I mean, it's got to come from the heart, right?
Yeah. Apparently, they have their own podcast.
Oh,
They have a Letterboxd podcast.
I do follow them on Twitter.
Yeah, I didn't know that they had a podcast, and I saw they upload. I think they have like 7 episodes or something.
Oh, so they just started a little bit a while ago then.
Well, I think that they do it. They don't do it. I don't know. I don't think that they do it super often.
Oh, okay.
But I'll have to.
So have you listened to any of them?
No, but I probably will download an episode. Like I think that the newest one was about Studio Ghibli or something. So, or is it Ghibli or Ghibli? I don't know. But
oh, there goes the pronunciation again.
But yeah, I might download it and check it out and see what it's all about. But I thought that was kind of cool.
And that's on HBO Max. Those films and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like HBO Max. I'm glad that all these streaming platforms. It's just I'm kind of losing track of them all. I just wish someone came out with like, you know what, to make your life simple, how about I just put them all together for you? And then in reality, then we're just back to cable or something like that.
Yeah. There's way too many. But it is nice using like the justwatch.com or whatever to.
No, on Letterboxd, yeah.
Yeah, to see where something is available because it's so hard to figure out otherwise where you can find everything.
Is that only a pro feature for Letterboxd users, or can any Letterboxd user?
Anyone can use it, but I think the pro feature is that you can. So if you have the pro account, you can set like your favorite streaming services or whatever. I know you can customize it somehow. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
So that way you can see. But anyone can click on the link to go to the justwatch.com or whatever. So.
Yeah, that Just Watch feature always helps out when I'm picking movies for the film club or if I'm looking at stuff that I want to watch on my watch list. It's nice to see where I can go and watch it on all the streaming platforms. I'm like, it's going to be interesting because, they just had NBC, their Peacock app just came out this past week.
Oh, it did? I didn't even
Uh-huh. Yeah, so NBC Peacock or whatever. They Yeah,
Huh.
the streaming platform just came out and they have some movies on it where they have like the Matrix trilogy, and I'm like,
Oh, really?
well, yeah, well, if I waited a couple weeks, I could have just watched it all here. But I
Hmm.
can't remember. I don't think no, it's on Netflix, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But some of those movies, I think there's some on there where I'm like, oh man, if I would have just waited a little bit, I wouldn't have had to pay for it or
Yeah.
anything. But and then they have some original content like already on it, and we'll see how it is. But
Ooh, they have Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas on it.
hmm
That's cool. Huh. Interesting.
So yeah, well, I guess like a movie that came out this week on Netflix, like a 2020 film, was The Old Guard.
Yeah. I,
So
did you love it?
um, I mean, you were talking about how like they kind of have like these hopes for it being like a series, like a trilogy or something like that, and I was like, you know what? Like I remember hearing about the novel or whatever, and I definitely had a lot of excitement for it. And I don't know, like the beginning, like it was good and I was enjoying it, and then just right away, like a cutscene, the music that was playing in the background, I'm like, this does not go with the movie at all. Like, what am I watching right now?
Yeah.
I know it's like very like picky, but I just felt like the in the beginning the movie was so serious, and then like the next cutscene, it was just like this hip hop music that was going, and I'm like, nah, this doesn't really fit the whole situation with this movie. So I think like if they would have maybe fixed that a little bit, maybe it would have made the movie seem a little bit more serious, but it kind of just seemed like another Netflix movie that kind of didn't have potential in my opinion.
Yeah. It's interesting because like when right before it came out and some of the earlier reviews were coming out, I saw a lot of people were really liking it, and it got me kind of excited because like, oh, okay, maybe it'll be good. But for me, it it almost just it just instantly fell flat, and I was just bored for
Hmm
most of the movie. There's some cool things in it, and I think Charlize Theron was good, and there's definitely aspects of the movie that I enjoyed, but overall, I just think it was pretty forgettable. Like I already feel like I'm forgetting a lot about the movie, and I just watched it like a few days ago. Um, but yeah, there's some cool action. But even the action, I feel like the way that they edited the scenes and everything, like it kind of just undermined any of the cool action that actually was there. Just kind of it almost ruined some of it. Um,
Yeah.
and then with the music, every decision that they made with the music, I think was terrible. I think the score reminded me of like a I don't know, like a cheesy like CW show or something, where especially during some of the emotional scenes, like this music comes on and it's like, okay, you're supposed to cry now. And it was just really cheesy and it took me out of the movie. And then when they started playing like all these pop songs and stuff during the action scenes, it was just really weird and it just didn't feel right. It was really strange to me.
At least with like Fast and Furious, like the music that goes with it, like it kind of fits it. And like I feel
Mhm.
like that kind of music was placed in this movie and like it didn't go well at all for me either.
Yeah, it was weird.
It's
I
interesting too because IMDb gives it a 6.7. Rotten Tomatoes has it as a 81%, but Letterbox, everybody, the average is like a 3.1. So it
Yeah.
kind of seems like more like fans in a sense, or like just movie watchers didn't really like thought of it like as an average movie, but it seems like critics, really kind of did enjoy this movie, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it definitely seems like there's some people that really do like it a lot, and it seems like for the most part, a lot of people are either saying it's okay, or but then there's some people that thought it was really good. Yeah, I think that there's some things going for it, but overall, it was just too forgettable, and like I didn't care about the story or um, really the characters or anything. but I didn't regret watching it really.
No, yeah, same.
I just I don't know, I just kind of felt whatever about it. But
So
I
with
mean,
it being like a series, are you gonna watch the next one that comes out,
well,
or
if they make another one, I don't know. Maybe it depends. But I saw the director apparently is working on a new movie with Viola Davis. Apparently, I don't know what it's about, but I just saw some news about it. So,
well? And I did see that Netflix they have a new movie coming out with Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans,
oh yeah,
based on like a novel as well, and that seems really
it's
interesting.
the
But
Russo brothers one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like the plot sounds interesting. Like I'll probably
Mhm.
watch it, but I don't know. It's just with Netflix, they have really good movies. Don't get me wrong, but then I just feel like a lot of them that come out, it's like you kind of described, like it's these forgettable movies where it's like, yeah, I'll
Mhm.
watch it, but I'm not gonna remember anything afterwards.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because they're putting like way too much content out, or like maybe they just want to keep up with that demand. I mean, I don't blame them, but sometimes it's just like, you could have made it a little bit better or whatever.
Yeah. I think there's some of that, and I think a lot of people do watch some like I'm trying to think what other movies recently that they've done, like Six Underground and some of these other movies that they did that weren't necessarily like great movies, but it seems like a lot of people watch them, and I think that they are successful, even if they aren't really great. But they do have a lot of good movies too.
Marriage Story,
Marriage Story,
Irishman.
yeah, Roma, um, and yeah, really, and I'm really hoping that I'm thinking of ending things is going to be good. I saw those pictures that they posted for the movie, and it looks good. And I listened to the audiobook this week, so I'm pretty hyped for that one, and I hope it's good. But we'll see.
What is that about again?
That's the Charlie Kaufman movie that comes out in September. The one based on the book. I'm thinking of ending things. It's it's kind of like a sort of a thriller where um, it's about a couple and the girlfriend is thinking of ending their relationship and they go to visit his parents and that's all I can really say without spoiling anything but it's really interesting and I really liked the audiobook and it was really short listening like I listened to it in a day.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, and and I've loved everything that Charlie Kaufman's done so I think it'll be good.
What other notable movies has he done?
Well, he wrote he did this screenplay for Being John Malkovich
Yep.
and Adaptation, which Spike Jones directed both of those movies. And you've seen Adaptation. We watched that in the film club. Um, and then he directed and wrote Synecdoche, New York. Um, and his most recent film was Anomalisa, which
Hmm.
was a stop motion animation drama. That was really, really, really good, and it didn't win the best animated uh, film Oscar or whatever that year. The whatever the Pixar movie was, Inside Out won. Uh,
Oh, okay.
of course, because Pixar always wins. But kind of sad because Anomalisa is really, 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 really good. Like one of the best like adult animated movies that there is. Um,
I'll need to add that to my watch list.
yeah, it's really good. I need to watch it again, but I think you'd like it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have watched some of those movies in our film club, so
Yeah.
just there's so many directors and writers and everything. Sometimes it's just I mix them up together or
Oh yeah,
forget some names.
for sure. Me too. Me too. Me too.
So yeah, I mean, we'll see how like it goes with some of these other movies. There definitely is a lot of potential, and Netflix does do a good job. It's just sometimes they have hit and misses, just like every production
Mhm.
company or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but our first movie that we watched this week for the film club was The Usual Suspects, and this was the movie that I chose. And it's when was the movie was made in
Uh,
1995, so a year after I was born. So now everybody knows how old I am. Um, but it has Kevin Spacey in it, which this is what like our second or third movie with Kevin Spacey in it, I believe.
yeah, I think
Because
so.
I know we watched
Something
Baby
like that.
Driver, and I can't
Hmm.
remember. There probably is another movie that he was in, but I know Baby
At
Driver
least,
was.
yeah, yeah,
But this movie, it was very interesting. Definitely it had that mystery aspect to it, and the whole time I was just trying to think of who the bad guy was and where the direction of the story was gonna go, and the purpose of it, and trying to understand what each character did and like what his role was. And you have Kevin Spacey kind of being like the lead person kind of telling the story, so it was really interesting listening to him describe everything and the interrogation with him and the federal agent. But uh I really did enjoy this movie, and I felt
yeah,
like the whole time I was kind of listening to well, like paying attention to what was being told in the story.
yeah. I enjoyed it a lot too. I think that the story was really interesting and it was well made, and I really liked the performances from everyone in it. And I didn't know what to expect. It's one of those movies that I've always I've always known about it, and I've always seen that famous that poster, um, but I've never really known much about it. And I'm glad that we watched it because it was really good. I thought it was interesting. When I was reading about it, I saw that Bryan Singer he said that the film is supposed to be like a parallel to the Wizard of Oz, apparently.
Oh.
Which
Hmm.
I didn't think of that at all when I was watching the movie, but reading about that afterwards, I mean, it makes sense. Thought that was interesting. He said that in the movie, New York is supposed to be like Kansas, where everything is kind of normal and you just like regular daily life goes on. But when they go to Los Angeles is supposed to be like Oz, where they go on different, these adventures and weird things happen. And there's all these different, like, interesting characters. Um, and apparently Kobayashi is supposed to be kind of like the man behind the curtain or whatever in Oz. Um, so I thought that was
That's
kind of
interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
A different perspective to it.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, another thing that I saw. Okay, my favorite thing about the movie now is so apparently, so when he wanted to make the movie, I think that he got the name of it from was it Casablanca or something? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Casablanca, he got the name from, and he knew what he wanted, like the beginning of, or he knew what he wanted that beginning scene where they're all together, uh, like that poster picture.
Yeah.
Like that was the scene that he knew that he wanted to do, and and I guess when they were filming, did you see this when they were filming the movie? I guess when they were filming that scene, Benicio del Toro kept farting.
Oh no.
So okay, so apparently Bryan Singer wanted that scene to be really serious, like it's supposed to be super serious apparently, and Benicio del Toro kept farting, like and I think that they did like at least 13 different takes or something, and he kept farting, and everyone kind of was laughing, and they just kept laughing because he wouldn't stop farting, and then he wouldn't admit that he was farting either, and everyone knew it was him. And so, and then I guess that they took a lunch break, and then Bryan Singer, he kind of like chewed him out, like, "Come on, guys, like this is supposed to be serious. You get stop laughing." And it just made it worse because they couldn't hold it in. It made it even funnier that they got in trouble for it. And he kept farting, and they just kept laughing. And then I guess Bryan Singer decided to just kind of like go with it, and he's like, "Okay, this is funny." And so they kept those takes of when he was farting, and it makes so much sense because when I was watching it, Like there was something, like it felt like there was like a it feels like there's like an inside joke going on, the way that
Oh
they're
yeah,
like how
exactly.
they're laughing. Like it definitely, I could see how, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Benicio del Toro was just farting.
It
So
makes me want to go back and watch that scene again, just because it did seem very authentic, like looking back, like,
yes,
and that scene was like
I
super funny. I think that's what really grabbed my attention
yes,
when I was
same. I
first watching it. I was like, oh, okay, this kind of, I don't know where direction it's going, but this is pretty funny so far.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that too. It definitely got me interested. I thought that was funny. And then I guess Benicio del Toro also, like, you know how he talks kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um, I guess he just kind of like decided to do that. He's like, all right, I'm gonna do this because he knew that he was just supposed to die in the movie. So like, I'm gonna do something to kind of stand out a little bit more. And the way he talked was kind of funny. Um, and then I guess that scene was also sort of improvised when the guy behind the camera or whatever was like, uh, when told him like in English or whatever. He's like, what?
Oh yeah,
Like that
that
whole
part.
scene. Yeah, I guess that was all improvised. So
I had a feeling with that part just because, I was like,
yeah,
what do you mean in English?
yeah. So I thought that was funny.
I mean, Kevin Spacey did win Best Supporting Actor for his performance, and I thought he did do a really good job. And then the Writers Guild actually ranked this film having like the 35th greatest screenplay of all time.
Oh well,
So that's kind of interesting to think about.
that's
I
cool.
did really enjoy the movie and everything. So it's just, it's interesting. You have Brian, you have Kevin. They both have, questionable backgrounds and everything. And,
Yeah,
a lot of times when I'm watching these movies that have like Kevin Spacey in it, or, it's directed by Brian, you just know in real life, like what's really going on. So, it's just a lot of times I get distracted in these movies because the whole time I'm like watching and I'm thinking like, this guy, like even though this movie took way back like in 1995 and everything, you just know in light of today with the accusations and everything that went towards Kevin Spacey, you have to take that stuff seriously. And so it's just that a lot of times, that people like to draw that line of, well, what do you separate the art from the artist? And it's that tough question. And so,
yeah, yeah. And it's one of those things. It's too bad because I really do love Kevin Spacey as an actor.
hmm
Like, in Seven and all these other movies that he's been in, and I always enjoy his performances. And he's definitely an interesting dude. And it just kind of sucks because it's like he, I I would like to live in an alternate universe where none of that happened and he's still making movies. And well, I guess he did. Apparently, he made a movie like a few years ago. Whenever all that was coming out, there was a movie that came out with him, and I remember reading that it had like super low, like the box office was
oh yeah, it
like they made
didn't.
like $20 or like something stupid, like crazy low. Like no one went and saw it, and it probably wasn't playing on many screens. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things. Like I don't necessarily like. I don't want to see another like a new Kevin Spacey movie, but it doesn't affect. Well, I mean, I definitely it comes across my mind when I watch some of these again, but or for the first time with this movie. But it
Yeah.
doesn't ruin the movie for me because I feel like
Mhm.
it's not like this is his movie. It's
Yeah.
a product of so many different talents that went into making this movie, and I don't think that it necessarily will ruin the viewing experience. And I think it's kind of a case by case thing because like I don't ever want to watch. I don't think I could ever go back and watch like the Bill Cosby Show or something like that.
Yeah.
But but with um, you know, I feel like I can still go back and watch Seven, and I can watch this movie again and enjoy it. But it is definitely it's an interesting thing. It's too bad.
It's a sad situation. You feel bad for those victims and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie though that you were talking about was Billionaire Boys Club,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and the opening weekend it only made $618.
yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
They said that the film was panned by critics, although Spacey's performance was praised, which is
Huh.
interesting to think about. But it had quite a bit of people actually in that movie. But yeah, I think I think with how bad it did, like it only worldwide it only made 2.7 million and only 1,349 dollars in North America.
Hmm.
So it makes sense why they
Interesting.
cut it. But but yeah, the movie
Yeah.
was really good though, and the end and just with that whole reveal at the end where the federal agents like looking at like the board and he's seeing all the names. I really liked that part because then you're just like thinking back on the movie. You're like, oh, so that's how he was. Kevin Spacey's actor was kind of verbal, was his name, was kind of going through the whole story of what he was talking about with these events.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. Oh, and I definitely need to watch it again because I was able to pay attention, but I got distracted. My wife decided to turn on the Roomba, and I put on my AirPods to watch, but it's still just really, it was really distracting having the Roomba go around the room. So I'll probably revisit it again in the near future.
Just getting distracted by watching the Roomba instead of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Roomba new or something, or?
No, no, that's all. We've had it for a long time, but she just loves to turn on the Roomba when I'm watching a movie. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So you were watching the movie using your AirPods. It's a nice feature that Apple has allowed, so it kind of helps with that noise canceling. But if that Roomba's coming in, it's gonna be a little hard to hear the movie.
Yeah.
Pay attention a little bit.
Yes, definitely.
Was there anything else about this movie that kind of grabbed your attention, or?
Not really. I think that's about it for me. I thought it was really good. Had an interesting story. I enjoyed all the characters and the performances from the actors. That was it was fun, and it was well directed. Um,
They blended well together, all the actors that were in this movie.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was good, and I'd give it 4 out of 5 stars.
I gave it 4 out of 5 stars as well. And
Nice.
IMDb it gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 89%. And then the average on Letterboxd was 4 stars. So
Nice,
we're
nice.
we're average.
Yeah, awesome. Well, with Bryan Singer, have you seen? I mean, you've obviously seen his X-Men movies, right?
Yes,
And did you ever see? I'm just like looking at his movies that he directed. Did you see Bohemian Rhapsody?
I have.
Or what else? Jack the Giant Slayer. I never saw that.
I never saw that one, but I remember it being on TV, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I never watched that. It looked kind of interesting, but I remember seeing a lot of bad reviews. But I still want to check it out. I remember seeing Valkyrie. Did you ever see that one with the Tom Cruise?
No, I did not see that one, but I did want to see it.
I thought it was good, but I haven't seen it since it came out, so I don't really know. But in Superman Returns, I liked it more than a lot of people did. It's not the best, but I kind of liked it. That's another one. Again, I haven't seen it in so long. But and then I loved, and he did X-Men, which is really like the beginning of like this whole Marvel thing that we got going on. Like he really, that came out before even Spider-Man did, um, which is pretty cool. And I thought X-Men was great, and X-Men X2 was awesome. I feel like they maybe don't hold up as well now, just because there's been so many superhero movies and stuff. But I did really love them. And he directed X-Men: Days of Future Past, which is one of my favorite X-Men movies. I love it.
Yeah, that one was a really good one. Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody, like I thought, like was a pretty average movie. I
Yeah,
enjoyed the performance that was done.
yeah, he was good.
So I didn't have. I know a lot of people um didn't enjoy it as much, but it's like one of those like sometimes I like watching these like biographical like drama films just because I feel like you get a little bit more like about like these artists. And so like, afterwards, like I downloaded like the Queen like best hits like on Apple Music and everything. I was
Nice,
like listening to it like for like the next couple weeks. And so I
awesome.
mean, even though like the movie wasn't like praised like super well or whatever, like I did enjoy it and
I
it
think a
kind of
lot of
sparked a
people
little.
loved it.
Hmm.
It got
I
nominated for a lot of things too.
I know that a lot of people didn't like that it won like best editing
Yeah,
though. I know people didn't like that, and that's what I think I remember most
yeah,
about that. The editing was a little, yeah, it wasn't good at all. But besides that, like I really did enjoy it.
yeah. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it too. But yeah, good stuff. Well, should we talk about the next movie then?
Amores Perros.
Amores Perros. So, all right. So, Amores Perros, Love Dogs or Love's a Bitch. This movie is not for the faint of heart. I think that this is a movie that I don't know. Like, I would be hesitant to recommend it to some people, just because I can imagine a lot of people would uh, probably want to turn it off pretty shortly after starting it, because it is really kind of dark and
Especially the
graphic.
opening.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a lot, and especially if you don't like seeing pets or dogs being hurt or killed. Yeah, dogs die. Dogs die in this movie, and it's really graphic, and it's intense, but it's never. I don't think it was ever done in a way that was, um, like, it wasn't done just for like shock value or anything. Like, I feel like it was important to the story, and it kind of,
Hmm.
like, it served a purpose. Like, it was done with good intent, I think, which makes all the difference for me. Because sometimes watching movies that have that kind of graphic, intense stuff like that, like it could be a turnoff for me in some cases, but I think when it's done, as well as it was done here, like I'm okay with it, even though it's kind of hard to watch at times. But yeah, this is the first feature film from director Alejandro Iñárritu, and I really like the movies that I've seen from him. I've only seen his newest ones, Birdman and The Revenant, which I think were both amazing. Uh, I absolutely loved Birdman, and it was one of my favorite movies of that year for sure. Um, and it was exciting to go back and watch his very first film, which for a directorial debut, I think that this movie was really, really, really good. Um, I really loved it. What did you think about it? Did you like it?
I did really enjoy it. I think you made the point where it kind of reminded you of Requiem for a Dream, correct?
Yes, yeah, it definitely has the same energy as that
Hmm.
movie.
And that's exactly like when you said that, I was like, yeah, dude, that's exactly. I was trying to like think of like a movie that it was like, and that's what I was getting from it. And like you were talking about like how they use dogs and just like with the whole, it wasn't like really for like a shock value. And it just kind of made me think of how, these dogs were kind of placed in the movies so you could see the different inequality with different stories in these different people's lives. And so, you have Octavio and Susanna like in the very beginning where he the dog like accidentally escapes and then like kills another dog that was a prize winning dog in one of the dog fighting thing.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, hey man, like I could get some good money with this. Like, why don't I do that? I can run away with my brother's wife. Like, yeah, like this will be like a good idea. Like I'm gonna get a lot of money. And so like that's where like I feel like you see some of that like hard images. I mean, you don't see any like shot on shot like dog fighting, but you do see like the aftermath or even the beginning just where they're mopping up the blood and stuff. And it just kind of makes you think of, I know for me at least, like I enjoy watching sports and I remember Michael Vick when he went to jail for dog fighting. It was like, wow, like he did dog fighting. Nah, that's really bad and stuff. But you don't really understand it. But like seeing this movie was like, oh, okay, so this is like, man, this is brutal.
Hmm.
And so like it really makes you look at it from a way different perspective. And I'm not saying like I didn't take light of dogfighting and all. I'm just saying I really didn't understand. Um, I really like how brutal it was and why these people really are essentially doing it. But I really did enjoy the plot of the movie and the different stories that went with all these people and how they were intertwined in a
Hmm.
sense, and how it led to one another. I know for me, the one that I always thought was the part of the movie that when I look back that I really enjoyed was the Danielle and Valeria story, where she's like the model
Uh-huh.
that like gets in a car accident and then you know the floor breaks like right before that, and then the dog goes down in the hole in the floor because she's throwing like a ball like in the
Yeah.
playing fetch or whatever. And like when I look back at it, when I was like thinking the movie and pondering it like a little bit like the last couple of days, that like whole story like just reminds me of like a Twilight like scene like or like episode
Uh-huh.
where it's just like, this girl like she can't walk and then her dog goes like in the floor or whatever and like it's running around and she can't sleep at night because she's so worried about the dog, but then she's worried about her modeling career and
Hmm.
all these like catastrophic events like just happen to her and then in the end they end up having to amputate her legs and then the dog's there, but like just this whole toll of the relationship with like her new lover and her losing her legs. It's an interesting take on like how fast you can lose things and not just in your like physically but also mentally. Like she
Hmm.
suffered a lot mentally and especially when she rolled up to the window like in her wheelchair and she saw that her billboard sign of her modeling stuff was taken down. Like that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that too. And it to me that part felt like it felt a little bit like lighter than the first and third
Yeah.
parts of the movie, but it's still so sad. Like there's some parts that are kind of funny in there, and it didn't feel as quite as intense, but it is depressing, and how they get in these fights and everything, and how this car accident is what kind of brought all of those characters together, and she ends up losing her leg. And the thing for me, I thought it was so funny though how the whole thing with Richie being under the floor. I was like,
Yeah, dude.
it's been it's been it's described as days. Like I don't know how many days, but it looks like it's at least 2 or 3 days that the dog is just under there. And it was just, to me, it was kind of funny and just weird, but um but I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. Um but yeah, I really like that one. For you, of the three storylines, which one's your favorite if you had to pick one? Like which one do you think?
Definitely the first one, Octavio and
Yeah.
Susanna. I really enjoyed that one just with like the whole plot because it starts off, with a car chase
Hmm.
and you're like, damn, like what happened to this dog? Like, why did the dog like, why is the dog bleeding? Obviously, it got shot, but like, what's happening? And then it comes full circle, like at the end of the story, that since this guy was doing so well with dog fighting, he kept killing this rival guy's like dog or whatever. the guy, got so frustrated that his prize dog in the end, that was supposed to be the best of the best, was about to lose. So he, instead of facing defeat, he ends up shooting Octavio's, dog or whatever. And that's why it resulted in that car crash, the car crash that ended up, wounding Valeria, and then it's just, yeah, I really did enjoy that one. And then I like how towards the end, like in the different story, like with uh the homeless guy or whatever, I liked how Octavio kind of came back and enlightened Susanna, where, he's like, hey, let's run away. And she's like, hey, like I never was gonna do that. And it's like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
you had it coming, bro. She did tell you several times, like, you don't understand. He's like, no, I do understand. She's like, no, you don't. So,
yeah, it's pretty rough. Like he's so set on doing this, and he he thinks that it's gonna happen. Like I feel like he thinks that she's gonna change her mind. Like he thinks that she's still gonna meet him at the train or whatever, or bus. What was it? Train or bus? I don't know. And then he's there, and then she doesn't show up in the end, and so he turns around and he doesn't go, because he didn't want to go and do that without her, but he was so set on doing that, and she was so just like, yo, WTF, man, like my my husband just died.
yeah, no,
Your brother
exactly.
was just killed. And that scene when he's killed in that bank doing that bank robbery was crazy. Um, it's just crazy. I like how all the stories are they're sort of connected, but not like it's they're really just connected by this car accident. Um, and it's interesting how with these main characters you have like Octavio's and like they have like a working class kind of family, and then the model, um, they're kind of higher class. They live in like a nice place, um, and you could tell they live in a definitely a nicer they have a nicer lifestyle. And then with the homeless guy, you got the guy is completely homeless, and these are people that would probably never have interacted or never have met each other in any circumstances other than the fact that they got in this car accident. And the other thing that the theme I thought was interesting is how there's dogs throughout the movie. In all three of the stories, dogs are a big part of it, and how dogs are known for being loyal and being man's best friend. But all three of these stories, you have these characters that are not loyal, where Octavio is trying to run off with his brother's girl, basically. And in the second one, the dude that's um, with the model, he's left his wife to be with this model, and then they end up having their issues and everything, and he starts to kind of regret. It seems like when he talks to his wife on the phone, it seems like he's kind of regretting his decisions in some ways. And then with what's his name? His name Chivo, the homeless guy. He um
Yeah, he's a professional hitman. That's called El Chivo.
yeah, he's a professional hitman. His daughter thinks that he's dead, and um he he regrets being part of doing terrorist acts for those guerrilla movements that he was involved in, and that's why he's been disassociated and disconnected with his daughter. Um, and it's just interesting, and it's there's so many things in this movie that are just sad and dark, and it feels to me like this place where they're living in Mexico, it feels like a real place, and it feels like it's one of those movies where even like when the movie stops, I feel like there's still things going on. Like
Yeah,
you can imagine like life happening and the kind of things that might happen in that area.
I completely
But
agree.
and I like that it felt like a real, like, living, breathing place. Um,
Yeah, it makes you like curious, like what is still going on, like what's
yeah,
what's happening now, kind of thing.
yeah. It's scary. And apparently, uh, the director, he said that when they were filming, that him and some of the people in the crew were robbed. They were actually robbed, like, while they were filming the movie, like in
Yeah,
like
because they did it in Mexico City.
yeah. So it's uh it's crazy. And like you were saying earlier with, dogfighting and stuff, it's a real thing, and it's a real problem, and one of those things that you've heard of and everything, but I've like never seen it, and I've never seen what it might look like, and this movie kind of showed us that. And um it's just really, it's dark, but it's real. Like, it's a real thing. And like we were talking about earlier before the podcast, it's interesting that this movie came out. Did it come out in 2000 or 2001?
Yeah,
2000.
2000.
And then in Mexico, just as of 2017, they outlawed dogfighting.
Yeah, they said that film like helped like with that cause, but
Yeah.
17 years later, it's kind of interesting that it took so long,
Yeah.
especially for that kind of thing. But it just shows like the differences in, between, countries and what they do and stuff. And I don't know. Because I would have thought that like that kind of thing would have been like outlawed like maybe right after the movie or something, but for it to be
Mhm.
so long. And like I was reading something too like about like the dog fighting and stuff because a lot of those dogs like they looked real. And I was like,
Yeah.
how do they make this feel so realistic?
Hmm.
And I saw like something where it said for the scenes where the dogs appeared to be dead or dying, the animals were actually heavily sedated under the
Yeah.
careful eye of the Mexican SPCA. And it said multiple dogs that looked like one dog seen on screen were also used so that the same dog was not under sedation for more than half an hour and not more than once a day at a time. And so, you not only do you have like that dog fighting scene where you're thinking of like, man, this is pretty brutal and everything, but the one scene that really stood out to me was when El Chivo was coming home and he's just greeted by Blackie that he ends up naming.
Hmm.
And that was Octavio's dog that he ends up finding like in the car crash or whatever. El Chivo ends up taking the dog because he was at the scene. But when you just heard that dog at the door barking, greeting him, I was like, no, dude, the other dogs. The other dogs. Oh no. And then he goes up to like his living quarters or whatever he is, and you just see in his facial expression, you can see all these dogs that this homeless guy surrounded by were just all dead. And, it was just such an interesting take because this whole movie, whenever you saw the homeless man like walking about, you saw him with all these dogs. And
Hmm.
then so like that was like a part of them and like just like how all these other dogs were a part of these other stories like that, him being surrounded by those dogs were a part of them. And so yeah, I just thought that scene was really powerful and it talked about how, you know, El Chivo, the reason why he ends up, not being a hitman anymore was because he could see that resemblance in him with that uh, fighting dog that he doesn't really know the direction that he's going and stuff, and neither does this dog. So it's better to walk away from it to better yourself or whatever. So I like that connection in itself in the movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really good. It was really interesting. And apparently, when they were fighting, I guess that they were just playing, like they were just playing, and I guess they used like fishnets or something to um, like hold their mouths so that they couldn't bite each other. And,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but they were just playing. Um, but yeah, it's definitely definitely interesting. Um, Anything else that stood out to you with the movie?
I just feel like it had a lot of great themes in the movie, and I, yeah, really enjoyed it, and I liked the connections that it, like you said, like to real life in a sense.
Yeah, I really I loved it. I think that it's for me is right up there with his. I haven't seen all of his movies, but his two newest movies. I mean, it's right up there with them. Like it might be. Uh, I don't know. I really loved it. I thought it was great, and especially for a first film, like it's one of
Oh yeah.
it's so crazy when you see some of these like directorial debuts from these directors. You're like, how the hell did you make this? Like for your first movie,
Mm-hmm.
it's so good. I mean, it's nearly perfect. Um, to me, I think it was just really powerful and um, grabbed me immediately, and I was on board the whole time. But it was dark, but it was good, and left me thinking about it for. I mean, I'm still thinking about the movie. I watched it last week. I thought it was great, and I'd give it 4.5 out of 5. I think the only thing, I mean, maybe if I watched it again, I'd maybe give it a 5. But I think that the second storyline, at first I didn't like it as much, but the more I've thought about it, it's grown on me. But even then, I still liked it. But now I enjoy it a lot more. Um, but I think that's the only thing that kind of just knocked it down a little bit. Still great, but I just think that the first and last one were perfect, pretty much.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I I give it I give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars as well. And IMDb gave it a 8.1 out of 10, and Rotten Tomatoes gave it 92%. And then the average on Letterboxd is a 4. So, but the 4.5 I gave it, I thought it was a really intriguing movie, and I felt like I was involved the whole time. I mean, the only thing for me is my attention span. So it was kind of a long movie, so there was some parts where I was like, okay, how long is this movie? Like, how much do I have left or whatever? But
Mm-hmm.
majority of the time, I was always intrigued with the different stories, and yeah, I really did enjoy it. It was a good pick. So good job, Cody.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you liked it too. Yeah, I thought it was great, and apparently um, it's part of Iñárritu's trilogy of death.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I saw that.
So he has two other movies, 21 Grams and Babel, that are apparently somewhat like spiritual sequels in a way. Like not, I don't think they have anything to do with each other, except for just thematically. Um, so I'm definitely interested to check those out, and you definitely need to watch Birdman and The Revenant
I
too,
know.
because they're really good.
It'll probably be on one of these streaming services, or I can just rent it. It won't be that bad.
Yeah.
Birdman was gonna be one of my, picks or whatever, but there's just so many movies that I want to watch. So I
Hmm.
think eventually down the line, Birdman and Revenant will probably be in that film club, just because, like you said, with this being his first movie that he ever made and stuff, it's just a good start. And definitely with the reception I've heard from these other movies, I know that he has a lot of potential. I'm looking forward to it.
Hmm.
But next week, or this coming week, we have two new movies that we want to watch. And so, what's the movie that you want to do?
The movie that I picked is the 1990 masterpiece Total Recall.
And that is funny. The coincidence with that, because I think the movie I'm picking is from the same director.
Oh, perfect.
and it's Starship Troopers,
Oh, awesome.
a classic 1997 American satire military science fiction movie
Perfect.
that I have seen once, like fully, but it's just one of those movies where it's interesting.
Awesome. I'm so excited. I was gonna watch that again anyways because I want to talk about some of the
Johnny Rico.
yeah. But I love Total Recall. I think it's my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and I think it's my favorite from from the director. And I love RoboCop too. So we'll probably talk about RoboCop maybe as well
Yeah,
next week.
because we watched RoboCop
Yeah,
a couple months ago.
yeah. So I'll be
Well, awesome. Those are going to be the movies that we're going to be watching: Starship Troopers and Total Recall. So, for you listeners out there, if you want to watch these movies with us, go ahead and watch it. And if you haven't had the chance to watch Amores Perros and The Usual Suspects yet, definitely go ahead and watch it. Obviously, in this podcast, we're going to spoil some of the movies, like in some aspects, but it'll always be nice for you to watch the movie before we talk about it, just so you can see our perspectives, and then follow us on Twitter, and we do have a YouTube channel. We can have some discussions on there as well. So
awesome.
once again, thanks for listening, and everybody have a great week.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.